Power Athlete Nation. Welcome to another episode of the premier podcast of strength conditioning, where we melt faces, destroy souls, and answer some dope questions.
Destroy souls?
Yeah, we just rip them straight out and tear them in half, just like that old Soul Reaver game.
Was that for regular Nintendo? I don't remember that one.
You don't remember Grandma's Boy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember where she goes and kills those dirty meth heads, and then she's like ripping their souls out. So, no, but there was a game called Soul Reaver where you used to be able to rip souls out. So that's what I always think about Power Athlete Radio. We melt faces, we rip out souls. We hopefully don't
saving people, not just destroying them.
Okay, well, maybe we have a different perspective on this thing. But what we do have, and what's got a dope perspective, is we have this thing called the hotline.
That's right.
So Power Athlete Radio has a hotline. We've asked you, the audience, to call and leave us questions, so we have things to answer. So if you have a question, we have answers, and you can reach that hotline at 929-464-4640, 929-ING-ING-0. So that's the hotline. It's always open. It's always hot, and we are ready. So, Mr. McQuilkin, do we have a question?
We received a text message.
Ooh, I like
this
text
is
messages.
a mouthful, so I understand why they texted it versus calling it in.
I'm in.
All right, ready?
Let's do it.
It's a fun one. All right, here we go.
You should do it like an English voice, being like, "Oh, hello,
I'm Harry Heptonstall.
I'm Basil 40."
Anyway, I'll work on that. I don't want to destroy I don't want to lose any listeners here, John. But here's the text. As far as baselines go, are there certain body weight multipliers we should be striving for with regards to strength work? For example, random multipliers input, squat 2 times body weight for X amount of reps, deadlift 2.5 times body weight for set number of reps, bench 1.5, press 1, etc. Same for any sprinting or running or assault bike work. Any benchmarks or baselines we should be striving for to time or hit calorie wise. I'm 6 foot, 170 pounds on hammer. Should I be hitting a 40-second 300 meter, a 12-minute 2 mile, all while deadlifting 2x body weight for 10 reps, hitting 20 pull-ups, and benching body weight for 20 reps? Just curious as how we all stack up with where Power Athlete thinks we should for our respective body weight.
Well, at 6 foot 175, he probably needs to put a little weight on.
170. Don't give him that 5.
Nah, he's a little thin. I think that there's some benchmarks that we definitely want to hit. He brushed on a few. One, I always think that the 2 times body weight back squat is a great marker for improvement and success.
For one?
If you can hit double body weight on your back squat for a single, you're usually headed in the right direction. You've done a pretty high volume of training, and that's just not something you just happen to walk in one day and bust out. So you can shoot for
unless
you weigh
Derek Woodsky.
unless you're Derek Woodsky. For deadlift, he talked about 2.5 times body weight. I'm more interested in a double body weight deadlift for 5 reps.
Okay.
If you can pull double body weight for 5, you're usually in pretty good shape. I say 10 plus dead hang pull-ups. He was shooting for 20, but 10 legit top to bottom dead hang pull-ups is pretty good. I would say he threw out there a 300 yard. I would say a 400 meter sprint sub 60 seconds is pretty damn good.
Oh, fuck. That's unbelievable.
If you're a runner and you're pretty fast, 60 seconds is pretty good. I think my best when we ran that time mile was I ran like a 120. I ran like an 80-second 400 meters, and I thought I was smoking. So, but I also, ran sub 5 flat. So I was going to go with a 40-yard sprint, 40-yard dash, sub 5 seconds, really around 4.8 would be pretty good. I think a sub 20-minute 5K would be pretty solid.
I can go with that.
And I think that you should be able to bench 225 more than 15 times. So ideally 20, but I'll go with 15.
Yeah.
So if you can, you have to be able to bench your body weight for, decent amount of reps too.
Can he, I'd be curious what his bench press, 6 foot. I mean, how long are this dude's arms at 170?
I bet you he's not doing 225 20 times.
Oh, I guarantee it. Even Luke and I struggled there.
Yeah.
But 1.5 times for 10 reps for bench press?
Yeah. I mean, if you did 1.5 times body weight bench press for 10, that's a pretty solid bench. The other one too, and we talked about conditioning. I mean, if you jump on the internet, man, there's some really superheroes doing some like crazy assault bike workouts, like 50 calories in like 17 seconds. I would definitely say that those are more outliers. The workout that I put together, which I think is a great benchmark for anybody, is sub 5 minutes, 50 cals on either the Echo or the Assault, and a 500 meter row, including the transitions. So you set a 5 minute countdown. You start with 50 calories, you jump off, and then you bang out a 500 meter row.
Yeah, I like that one.
As long as you're sub 5 minute, I mean, we've seen people do it in 3. We've seen people do it in 4, 4.5, and sub 5 minutes on there. You're usually headed in the right direction. We got some lat testing we've done pretty extensively with all of our Block 1 coaches that have come through for that for years. So we've aggregated all those numbers too. But I think for the most part, in that conditioning cycle, if you can hit that 50 cals, 500 meter row, sub 5 minutes, you're usually trucking in the right direction.
Now, how do we test this? What's the best way? Is this all one fun weekend?
No, I think you got to periodically challenge yourself. Like if you're falling hammer, for example, you're going to hit some rep maxes. We're going to definitely work up to some singles on the back squat if you're falling, because we do work through a power athlete template. So we're going to hit, 5s for rep maxes. We're going to hit triples for rep maxes and singles for rep maxes. Then we're going to come back and do our compensatory acceleration work. You're definitely going to be out there sprinting 400 meter runs. I'll use a lot of 300s for our easy effort runs, but when it comes to our smokers, we're going to come a little bit faster. And then we always end up with at least one 5K in each cycle. We do hit our bench. We do hit a ton of overhead pressing. I found that the greatest accessory work for my bench press was actually the close grip overhead press. And, really coming in and benching heavy one day a week, hitting a ton of dumbbells and then doing a lot of overhead work actually drove my bench a lot better than benching 3 days a week or even 2 days a week. I think we do a ton of dynamic pulling. So I'm a little more focused on that double body weight for 5 more so than 2.5 times. And we do a ton of dead hangs. So,
well, and we've seen some ugly ones. So it's almost in line with set our people up where deadlift is a beauty contest for 2 versus the 2-1 ugly for just marking a number at 2.5 times.
Yeah. No, but I mean, so here's an interesting thing. Like as people become more proficient, you get more opportunities, more reps underneath the bar. The idea that the technique that you used before, maybe the shitty technique, no longer suffices. Like as you get stronger, the technique has to improve. Because the only way you're going to handle heavy weight is with good technique. I mean, when you watch people squat or even lift or, really do anything, think about snatch, clean, and jerk in the Olympics. The people that are really lifting the heavy tonnages are all doing it extremely well. Like I've never seen anybody squat 1,000 pounds ugly, because if you do, you end up shattering your back in half. So you have to, at some point, adhere to what the most efficient way is. And a lot of times the most efficient way and the most protective way and the way you're going to get out of this thing alive is with the best technique. So I always think too, it's usually easier to perfect your technique when you're not as strong, because what happens is once people get strong, they get a little more set in their ways. Well, this is the way I've always done it. So, and then what happens is, and we deal with this all the time, people get real strong or they get strong. The technique's bad. They get hurt. And then all of a sudden they're like upset at the program. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, they're working with Xanis for 6-8 weeks trying to fix all these issues, where if they just adhered to the movements and understood what was asked of them and tried to perfect it, like you talked about this beauty contest, then all of a sudden, once you mastered that, once you started layering on more strength, all of a sudden now it looks pretty damn good.
And we had we had so many people across the world fall into the trap of the power clean on the Bedrock program, because they were introduced to Olympic weightlifting through CrossFit for the first time, where they were already strong.
Sure. Then
they had to learn this very technical movement, but they were just strong enough to hit 225 and then never get any more weight on there.
Sure.
So that'd be an example of you were just too strong for your own good to focus on. But unless you didn't get wrapped up in that number.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of like mastery, and I think about this and, as it relates to many things, but a lot of people that you'll look at that have really attained a high level of mastery have like a level of, I guess you could say, like removing the ego and like a humble deal where like, hey, I'm not good at this. or I need to be better. And you humble yourself to like take a step back. I think when you become so set in your ways or so kind of ego driven that a lot of times you put yourself in a bad position. So instead of just piling on more weight and just saying, fuck it, I'll get it live, I'll figure it out. There's a definite real way to master the movement and do it, with eye-pleasing technique. And when somebody sees it, like, wow, you've taken the time that it takes to master this movement.
Mm-hmm. And the area code from this caller is Corpus Christi. So I want to speak directly to him. Although John is providing some direction for you to test where you currently stand. So your training as it is today, this is not a representation of who you are, but then the next time these opportunities to test these movements comes up, ensure that you're simply testing who you are today as to who you were, not the other leaderboard scores or anyone else testing out there. So Corpus Christi just improving and being a better version of yourself as you progress. That's what you can strive for.
Well, the other one too, and I think where Power Athlete differentiates ourselves in the market is that the people that are following our programs are doing so for something greater than just aesthetics. And I'm sure there are people on here that train for aesthetics and are like, hey, I just want to look like a fucking power athlete. I want to be jacked. I want to be in good shape. And there's a ton of people on Jack Street that are there. There's also a lot of people on things like Hammer and Field Strong and the other programs that are using this training as a vehicle for either their work or their job or their sport. They're trying to become the best in the world at what they want to do. And I think that's where our programming really shines. So a lot of times I really shy away from putting benchmarks out there, especially on something like Hammer, because the results that I want are more real world. I want people to be like, hey, I followed this training. Now I was able to get out of harm's way. I was able to, warfighter, door kicker, whatever it is. And I like hearing the practical use and the practical application. I remember years ago, I got an email from a guy who was like a woodland firefighter, and the training allowed him to fight longer because he wasn't using as much oxygen. So he found that as his fitness and his strength and everything went through the roof, he could last 1.5 times longer than he could before based on his oxygen consumption because of being more physically fit, which allowed him to do his job longer and do better. And I always think like those real world applications, when people see these, hey, I did the training and now I was able to get out of harm's way or do something better or help somebody or be more successful in my job. Those are the feathers that I put in my cap a lot more than like, oh my God, hey, I got a 2 times bodyweight back squat. Great. That's an awesome thing. And I'm stoked for you. But at the end of the day, how are you using the training? And that's the stuff I get excited by.
I couldn't search this quick enough to find it, but where you say get out of harm's way, one of our Power Athlete methodology students and the dude came to the symposium, the last symposium that we had, and his story of getting out of harm's way. This dude is a father and owns his own farm and freaking got backed down by one of his cows on the property, but was able to save his own life based off the strength. And he called tent, like you refer to in the course, tensile strength.
Yeah.
He referenced it as the representation that he had when he saved his own life. I can't find the story here, man. I wish I had more time, but
I never knew if tensile strength was the right term, because you think about tensile strength as relates to steel, how strong a steel is. And, I go back to the age old samurai sword metaphor, the idea of heating the steel, pounding it, cooling it, heating it, pounding it, and folding the steel, which is how I view training. It's like this quote that I dropped years ago about moving dirt, but really that's a great analogy for just training. But the effect of what happens with training is the same as a samurai sword. You heat the steel, you pound it into shape, and then you cool it and you quench it. And you kind of let that happen. And you put it back in the heat, and you go back and forth on heating the steel, pounding it, letting it cool. And I think that analogy is probably the best one that I've heard for training.
So if somebody wants to implement these tests and approach, should they just follow Hammer and they'll appear?
Yes.
What if they're on any of the other training programs, or they're coming up with their own?
Yeah. I mean, if you're on Hammer, you're going to get tested on all this stuff. We're going to hit 1RMs on all this. We're going to hit rep maxes and 5s and triples and singles. We're going to work on our jumps. So I try to program a bunch of jump testing. We were going to hit our sprints. We're going to hit our 5Ks. We're going to hit our 1 mile repeats. And there is a ton of testing each week. Now, I'm not expecting every week for you to PR. I'm not expecting you to burn it to the ground, but there's periodically points when I say, hey, I need you to go out and need max intensity. I want you to burn it to the ground, burn the ships, leave them, kick the doors off the hinges, and let me see what you got on this one. And then what we should do, and I do this personally, like I'll go look at the leaderboard and I kind of screen cap it. And I kind of look from week to week to see, who's progressing, who's not, if we kind of have to adjust some volume and intensity, kind of scale things back and what it looks like. But for the most part, the people that are following hammer, fucking actually hammering it. I mean, they are crushing it. Like I say on Saturdays, we slay every day, especially on Saturdays.
Sweet.
And but the other programs too. I mean, Field Strong, we do Jack Street. All the programs are always going to hit some form of rep maxes just because I'm always interested in what that is. And when I say rep max, that is the heaviest set of 5 reps that you can lift on that movement. And I think that's a greater determining factor than some of the 1RM stuff. So, I mean, it's just more interesting. I think it's more applicable to the training programs. Cool.
All
right. Anything else, Mr. McQuilkin?
No, I did. I was able to find it. So our boy, Michael.
I was stalling for you.
I know. Thank you. I'm the worst Googler. But anyway, here we go.
You're Ogoogly?
Ogoogly. This is from Michael M. And he's qualifies himself as a full-time rancher. And I'm waiting for this right starting point. Here we go. I believe Bedrock saved my life. Long story short, I got smashed by an 1,800-pound angry mama cow last April. And I believe the only reason she didn't absolutely just kill me then and there was the glorious grace of God and Bedrock. She had me down and was mauling the piss out of me while stomping on my back and my legs. I was able to get away without any broken bones and nothing torn but my jeans and my boots. She hit me several times, twice into the wall of the barn. I was a sore unit for quite a while, but I was not broken. The base level of strength and resilience my CNS had been gaining were, I believe, pivotal to my survival, and that's not only the wreck I've had either. I'm not sure that one, but yeah, he's essentially grateful. Thank you, Michael. And then you dropped this story on us at the symposium. So now we got it here in text, and he finishes with iron sharpens iron, so that one man may sharpen another.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron, just like one man sharpens another. Well, great. Thanks, Power Athlete Nation, for another episode of the premier podcast in strength conditioning.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. Head to powerathletehq.com/training to choose from a number of programs to meet your specific performance goals. And if you like to break a mental sweat too, visit academy.powerathletehq.com and become a real stakeholder in you or your athlete's success. Until next time, bye!